the December 14th, 2021 meeting of the Acushnet Public Library Board of Trustees. We are being audio taped and videotaped, and we do have a quorum. Our first item of business today is the Secretary's report from November 16th. Does anyone have any clarifications or questions on those minutes?
No.
All right.
To accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next is the budget.
So, not too much, I don't think, difference in terms of what you've been seeing throughout the past 6 months of the fiscal year. It's hard to believe we're 6 months in, but we are. So I think salary is on track. In terms of operating, you'll see we're almost halfway spent out on building and grounds, which is typical at this time of year. We are pretty heavily spent out on the office supplies line. You might remember office supplies we've cut in half the past 2 fiscal years. We'll definitely need to review that for FY23 because as you can see, we're pretty much getting to be spent out from that. And we have overspent from the children's education supplies line. One of the big reasons for that is that the state changed vendors for the summer reading program, and so for the promotional material, I usually buy that at the end of the fiscal year, or towards the end of the fiscal year, but this year we had to buy it by the end of the calendar year because of the vendor that they are now using. So that accounts for why that line is already spent out. And it's overspent, not intentionally, but we are doing for the first time a winter read and bead program, similar to what we do in the summer, but just as we aren't offering any in-person children's programs throughout the winter, we thought that perhaps doing something with the beading program would give an incentive to stop in once a week to hopefully borrow material, but also to come in to collect your bead. And we are also going to do, like we did in the summer, the mystery sticker puzzles that we offered. We're going to do one for the winter. So those are things we wouldn't normally purchase, so that's what put us over that line at this point in the fiscal year. So additional supplies that are needed for children's educational purposes, programming purchases, will be through the state aid account going forward this year. But other than that, we're a total of 47.4% spent, which I think is a good spot to be in for halfway through the year. So unless you have any specific questions, that's about what I have.
I don't have anything. Everything looks good to me. Anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. For new business, we have the grading of the back lawn.
So the pavilion project is nearly complete in terms of the pavilion construction. There are a few things that need to be done in the spring. And what we're going to talk about today initially was going to be done in the spring. I'm not sure if you've all heard or not, but our building commissioner, Jim Merritt, is leaving Acushnet. And he's accepted a position in another municipality. And so he will be leaving us in about a month or so. That's, another topic for another time. But I think it's important to say, just within this context, I think it's okay to say it, that Jim's done so much for this building. He was, key in the renovation of the building back in 2014 and 15. And he's my go-to person when something goes wrong in this building. And it's a huge loss for the town, but also for the library that he's moving on. But how that relates to the grading of the back lawn is that time is of the essence since he's going, and he would like to oversee the completion of the project as much as possible before he does leave. And as I think you're probably all aware, there is that slight decline from the parking lot onto the back lawn. And it's a little bit steeper in the area where the pavilion is going, that decline. And so in order for the pavilion to be ADA compliant, handicapped accessible, the lawn needs to be graded and raised up so that people can walk from the parking lot on a path straight to the pavilion. So Jim has worked with Dan Menard of the DPW on a plan to do the grading work. That's a huge asset that we have the DPW and that they're able and willing to do that for us. But the grading will be done at a slight diagonal from the southwest corner of the pavilion to the parking lot. The path itself will be about 8 feet wide, and that's because that's the size of the equipment Dan has. So if you didn't want it to be 8 feet wide, then that would create a little more work for Dan and his crew, and it would probably come at a cost to us. So I think it's fine that it's 8 feet wide. Jim chose this location specifically because it will give us the grade that's needed for the ADA requirement. We could do it in another area, but it would probably mean a longer path. And then, so this way it's giving us what we need and hopefully doing minimal work. Dan will fill in with seed for grass, and then in the spring, and then the walkway itself will be paved by the DPW next spring before we use the pavilion. When the town mows, the mower will be able to go right over that path, so it'll just go right up along. So that was a concern of theirs because they don't want the path to become overgrown. So it will be done in a way that the mower can just ride right over the path. And at the same time that they do this work, the DPW will put in a trench to lay wire, and then in the spring we'll need to get an electrician to come in to finish the electrical work, but we're obviously going to want electricity in the pavilion if we're planning on doing concerts there. And this would be a great opportunity for that work to be done without causing them to cut into the parking lot, in the spring, or to have to come up with another plan. So I think it's a really solid plan. They're ready to start working on it last week. So we just, of course wanted to bring it to you first before saying, yes, go ahead and do that. So today it would be great to get a motion to approve the grading of the back lawn as proposed by Jim Merritt. And the work would be started by the DPW, as maybe as soon as tomorrow. I'm not sure, but I know they are looking to do it as soon as possible before the ground hardens also. So if you would like them to wait, you could do that, but if not, if you have any questions, I don't have much more information other than what I just said, but I can certainly get answers for you. But I'm very confident in everything that Jim has done for this building, and I'm very confident everything that Dan has done and the DPW has done for this building, so I'm sure that this is going to be a great solution.
Nice.
If Jim hadn't brought it up, this could have been a potential problem for us down the line, so I think it's a great solution. And then we'll make that pavilion accessible.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It does.
Sounds like they thought of everything,
It
the
does.
lawnmower and the
Yeah, very thorough.
path and
Yep.
the seed, so.
Which is why it really is heartbreaking to lose Jim, because I don't know that anyone else will ever be as thoughtful and thorough regarding this building as he has been. It's not just our building, it's the town, so. Anyway.
So does anyone have any questions or comments?
No?
Well, if we can.
I'll make a motion that the
Alright.
plan as proposed by Jim Merrick.
A second?
Yep. Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Enthusiasm.
Aye. Thank you.
That's great. So I will, he said if he didn't hear from me, then he would know that meant it was good to go, and hopefully they'll be able to get started, especially since it's so mild this week. Be a good time to do
Yeah,
it.
it's perfect weather
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And the next item on the agenda is the FY23 budget process and the plan from management transitions within the town administrators.
So I believe we've talked about this before. I'm sorry if we haven't, but our town administrator is also leaving. Her last day is December 31st. Our town treasurer is also leaving December 31st, not that she pertains to this, but there is a lot of turnover happening in town and a lot of uncertainty, which is stressful, especially with budget season upon us. So in terms of the FY23 budget process, we haven't received a budget memo from the town yet. Normally we have that by now. But with all the changes taking place and staff shortages and the fact that we're still in a pandemic, there's, everyone's got a lot on their plates. So the memo will be coming, we just don't have it yet. The Finance Committee met last week. It was supposed to be a joint meeting between the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. That didn't wind up happening, but the Finance Committee still met independently to discuss their thoughts. And I was just able to watch that meeting today so that I could catch up with what they had to say. So per the Finance Committee, it looks like they're going to be requesting 2 budgets from all departments. One will be a budget with contractual increases, so the increases that have to happen, and what that bottom line total is. And then the second budget will be one with contractual increases and wants, which will be evaluated, and then what the bottom line means. And they want a lot of description from us. I would like to note that Kristen Liotti, a former Board of Trustees member and chair of the trustees for quite a long time, when I came on board, she was very emphatic with me that I needed to provide as much detail as possible to the Finance Committee when presenting. And in some recent years, I felt like, wow, it doesn't seem like everyone else is doing this, and maybe I'm giving them way too much and potentially boring them or annoying them. But no, it turns out they really want us to be, and probably even more description than I have been giving them. So anyway, I'm glad that's already been a part of what we do as a presentation, because it's not like I'm now wondering, well, how do you do this? Because I've already been doing it. So I'm appreciative for that, because I think it'll make the process a little bit easier on us, especially with all the uncertainty right now. We've been scheduled, according to that meeting that I watched, for a FinCom presentation on Wednesday, January 26th. Looks like the meetings will be at Town Hall this year. There was no mention of a Zoom component, but that could be coming. Who knows that could be a part of it, but as of right now, they just spoke about meeting at Town Hall. In the past, all the board members have attended when possible. So once again, if you're available on that date, and that I'll keep you posted if that isn't our date, but if it is our date, hopefully we'll all be able to be there.
What was it?
In support,
26?
Wednesday, January 26th. We were also assigned a liaison. His name is Eric Chu. We have not had a liaison for a couple of seasons now, I don't think. But I know that when we did last have a liaison, which I want to say was around 2016 or 17, the board did ask the liaison to attend the meeting in which we were discussing the budget so that they could weigh in and offer any input or hear directly from us why we were putting in certain requests. So if you would like me to extend an invitation to Eric for that meeting, then I certainly will do that. I leave that up to you all to decide if you want to do that or not. I think it's a good idea to have someone involved as much as possible, but I leave that up to you to decide. And of course, we'll have to decide when the next meeting will be, but that's a piece of it.
So he's the liaison between the FinCom and us?
And
Is that
us.
okay? I just meant.
Yep, he's the finance,
Okay.
finance committee liaison.
Okay.
Yep. So he's a member of the finance committee and has been assigned. the
So
library.
each member got assigned different?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Different
I see.
departments.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, and I'm not, sure why they haven't done it, or maybe they've been doing it for larger departments and not all of the departments, but it sounded from the meeting that they really want to be involved in understanding why budget departments are presenting the budgets as they're presenting. So I think that bodes well that they want to be involved.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great. So that's where we stand for Finance Committee. do you think you'd like me to extend an invite to Eric for our next meeting? So, because at the next meeting, I'd hoped to be talking about the budget today, but since we don't have the memo, it didn't seem appropriate to start talking about the budget today. But if you'd like me to extend that invite, I certainly.
It's a good
Sure.
idea.
I think
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. And hopefully he's able to attend. And then, right, I mentioned that our town administrator is going, and at least as of last Friday, an interim town administrator has not been hired or appointed or anything. So we're going to be on our own for a little bit, it sounds like. The selectmen held a Zoom meeting last Friday to review their plan. Our department is being asked to report to Dave DeRoche, who's the chairman of the select board this year. He's going to be in charge, it sounds like, of town day-to-day operations, so he will be the person that we would report to. They discussed that the report should include anything that we would communicate to the town administrator, and should be on a weekly basis or as needed. Because I report to you all, I don't report to the town administrator on a weekly basis. I did that when we were working remotely. We were required to report weekly. But I don't typically talk to the town administrator, sometimes for a few weeks at a time. Because, knock on wood, there's no need to. So they did adjust in conversation, adjusted it from being a weekly requirement to an as needed requirement. Because I don't think he necessarily wants to hear, all is great every single week. He's a busy person.
It's a good thing that everything is great.
It is a good thing, right? I would rather he not have to hear from us at all, so. But I, totally willing to communicate with him, as much as is needed. But that's kind of where things stand between the budget process and then their plan for transition. So we'll see how it all plays out. So that's about it. So nothing to approve, and I'll definitely reach out to Eric when we set the next meeting, and then hopefully he'll be available to join us.
That sounds
So
good.
that's great. Okay. Thanks.
Next is the director's report.
So, let's see, I usually forget to mention the statistics, so I put those on top this time so that I would call some attention to that. As you can see, we're circulating much higher than we were a year ago, but that's because people are able to come in the building, I think. So we're still below where we would normally be, but I think that's expected because not everyone is coming back yet, and also I think that not having the programming does certainly factor into the circulation numbers. But I think the numbers are still really great for where we're at, and we're talking over 6,200 items, so I think that's a very respectable number. We were holding the story time programs outside up until November 17th, so we were able to offer 3 story times in November with 30 people in attendance. And the adult book group is now meeting, so the one adult program that's listed is that book group for the month of November. So slowly but surely, we're seeing some action. We did distribute over 100 take and make kits in November. We had 2 separate projects, including an adult project, which I believe we gave out 47 of the adult projects, which was a beaded bracelet. And people seemed very excited about that when they were taking it. So we'll hopefully be able to do something else for adults in the new year. Computer sessions are back up. They're not to where they were pre-COVID, but they're certainly higher than they were. Study room usage is kind of dipped since the summertime, but people are still coming in a few times a week to use the study rooms. And slowly but surely we're hearing from people about using the community room space. So that's where we're at in terms of circulation. And then as far as the rest goes, as I think you all know, as we discussed at the last meeting, I've kept up communication with the schools. I've now met with the entire third grade, which has been great. And I thank the third grade teachers over at Acushnet Elementary for being so supportive and inviting me to come in. I've met with one fourth grade teacher so far. Between all of those visits, I think it's been about 75 new cards that have been issued, which is exciting, and hopefully they come in and use them. We have seen a number, not all 75, but we've seen a number of them come in to use their new cards, which is great. And actually, the idea for that winter read and bead program came from the first third grade visit when the kids started talking about, oh, I remember going to the library and getting my beads and talking about that. So I said, oh, you know what? We could try something like that for the winter for some engagement.
Good idea.
So yeah, so hopefully it goes well. It won't be quite the same, but I think it'll be fun. So I'm really excited about those events at the schools. I've got a literacy event tomorrow at Ford Middle School, so I'll be hopefully seeing some older kids, and I'll be able to issue library cards at that event, so that'll be great. We did receive a $500 grant from the Acushnet Cultural Council to put towards our summer concert series. The Friends of the Library are meeting hopefully in January to discuss a budget for the year, and so hopefully they will be able to support that summer concert series as well, because with that pavilion, you know, the staff and I were talking about a 10-week session of concerts, so I'm hoping that we can actually make that happen financially. But it was great to get that grant from the Cultural Council. And we learned that the Mass Board of Library Commissioners has extended contracts with Beanstack, who we use for the Reading Incentive Program, through 2023. So that's great because we'll be able to continue using that for summers 22 and 23. And then we'll also be able to continue working with the public schools with that program if they're interested in continuing that after the school year. So that was great news too, because that won't come at a cost for us. So a lot of good things happening, quiet things, but a lot of good things. Also one of our newer Tech 2s who came on in May of last year accepted the children's room assistant position, and her first day will be January 3rd. So after her trial period, we will then be able to replace her. And so we will continue to be a little short-staffed, but you know, that seems to just be how it is here. So anyway, it's all good. That's about it.
You've still been busy.
Still been busy, yep.
Anybody have any questions, comments, anything? Okay. Do you want to set the next meeting?
Yes. Since we don't have a date of when the budget will actually be due, we know that the meeting is tentatively scheduled for the 26th of January, but normally the budget is due a couple of weeks before that to the town administrator's office. So in thinking that that won't be the case, I was hoping to meet the first week of January if possible. And that Tuesday is January 4th, if people are available that early on in the new year. But I would like to accomplish that as soon as we can, so that it's not, whenever the deadline is, it's not, you know, the day after we meet or something. But so if that's a possibility, Tuesday, January 4th at 4 would be great.
That's okay with me. Is it okay with
It's okay with
everyone
me.
So, yes.
else? Nancy, you're good? Steve's good?
Mhm.
Danielle's good? Jerry's good? Okay. Next meeting, January 4th at 4 o'clock.
Great. And I'll get in touch with Eric, and if he can't make that, then I'll try to get some alternates from him, maybe within that week, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I
Okay.
know.
That's
Great. Okay.
Perfect. Nobody has anything else? Then we need a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This December 14th, 2021 meeting of the Acushnet Public Library Board of Trustees is officially adjourned. It is 4:27. Thank you.